Okay, Talion. Give it a go. See if you can call your demonic energy out, Salas said, crossing his arms as he looked down at Talion, watching carefully to see how things went. Okay, Talion said to himself, gripping his fists tightly with a look of determination on his face. Focus on the sensation, what it felt like to have the energy flowing out. Talion focused as hard as he possibly could, trying to recall every aspect of what that energy felt like when it was rushing out yesterday. The feeling of it rushing out from what felt like his stomach, the pulsations that moved flowing out from the center, filling the rest of his body and then pouring out of what seemed like every pore. You can do this, Talion. Focus. Come on, Talion said, trying to pull the energy out. He sat there for several minutes, trying to focus. Come on, work, he thought to himself, over and over again. However, it seemed to be getting him nowhere, regardless of how hard he focused on the sensation, trying to remember it. It didn't seem as if the energy was coming out. Don't you have, like, some pointers or something that you can give me? Talion said, looking up towards Salas. Sorry, kid, it doesn't work like that. Everybody's energy acts differently. My demonic energy has a different feel than yours, and thus the same thing that works for me would probably work to your disadvantage, slow you down even more. You have to find your own path here, kid. And if you can't do it within an hour, we're back to square one. You still have about 45 minutes left. So if I were you, I'd stop wasting it talking to me. Focus on the feelings, the sensations. You have to be able to summon your demonic energy at will, not just as a response or using a visualization method to cause an outpour. Something like that might be able to temporarily grant you access, but that's not good enough for combat. You need to have absolute control, be able to call it at will, to make it flow how you want, and to not waste it in massive amounts. Try to channel your emotions. I can't be specific as to how, but emotions can often have an effect on your energy, how it responds to you. So try to focus your emotions. Try different balances, different feelings, and see what the results are. Remember, kid, this is about what you feel. No one else can tell you how that is. You didn't say anything about emotions. I told you to focus on how you felt. I thought it was obvious that your emotions were included. But apparently I was wrong. Just for the sake of that little oopsie, I'll add the 15 minutes back. You have 1 hour. Try it again. Talion growled. I thought you were supposed to be good at this. Sorry, kid, I'm not used to people not understanding demonic energy. Most demons, even low-level ones who were raised in the boonies, like Rico, understand demonic energy at a certain level. They understand what it's like to sense and perceive it, and how demonic energy, both the energy of others and their own, makes them feel, that it has an effect. Basically, it's so basic of a concept that I never thought that I'd have to teach it to you. But I keep forgetting that you were raised with your mother out here alone, that you don't have any contact with demonic energy. But ignore it for now. Just focus. Try again. Talion closed his eyes and began trying to refocus on the sensations that he felt the first time. This time, trying to remember his emotional state as well. As he did, The first thing that came to Talion's mind was the fear. At first, he was afraid of it. That massive outsurge of power that just seemed to come from nowhere. But as he got used to it, that outflow, he remembered the feeling. A feeling of anticipation, excitement, like there was something over the horizon that he knew he was heading towards. His ambition to learn magic, just like his mother and grandmother before her. He wanted it. That desire seemed to compel him, fill him up as he was focusing on the flow of energy. And so Talion began to try to focus on that sensation, that emotional state, the hope over the horizon. And as he did, Talion was comforted for a short moment, as a breeze seemed to sweep up. It felt fairly nice, seeming to warm him somewhat in the chilly morning air, relaxing. And for the first few moments, it stayed that way. It was at that point that Talion began to note that the wind wasn't stopping. It seemed to just continue to billow. Just that slow, steady, warm breeze. Normally, a gust of wind, even a soft one, would have stopped by now. As Talion opened his eyes, he was quite surprised to find a powerful glow emanating from him. A somewhat silver-sheened light that seemed to pour out. A slight aura seemed to encompass his body as a very wide smile arose on his face. Completely dumbfounded, after focusing on it for just a few minutes, it almost felt natural. Easy. Yes! Talion shouted, jumping in the air and pumping his fist. Afterwards, he couldn't contain himself and simply continued to jump up and down. Yes! Yes! I did it! It's working! He said, looking himself over as the silver glow seemed to be stable around him. It wasn't going anywhere. A small amount seemed to be drifting off of him. You see, I did it! I can do it! He said, looking over to Salus, who stood there with, well, a seemingly unconcerned expression. Well, you're almost there, he said, closing his eyes for a moment. What? What do you mean, almost? You see this? Talion said, directing him to the silver glow around him. Yeah, kid, I see it. You were able to call out some of your demonic energy. But you're not exactly done yet. You've just managed to call out a small portion. You pulled a few drops out of an ocean. Don't get too excited about it. If you really had control over it, the aura surrounding you would be much stronger. But this is definitely a good start. It means we're not going to have to start over at square one. You can get in contact with your demonic energy and pull it to the surface. You're just not very good at it yet. But we have time to work on that. Right now, what I want you to focus on is repeating the process that you just did. Only intensify it. Intensify it? Talion said, looking up towards Salus, a little bit confused. Yes, Talion. Understand that in combat, the use of demonic energy is paramount to your survival, regardless of whether you use casting or your natural demonic abilities, both of which will require you to use demonic energy. And the amount of demonic energy that you use is important. Sure, there are plenty of things that you'll be able to do just fine with a small amount of demonic energy, but the most powerful abilities at your disposal will always require heavy use of that energy, meaning you'll need to be able to summon large amounts quickly. So, while you've gotten in contact with it, which is the first part of this, Now, you need to get to the point where you can call it out in large amounts. We won't focus too much on speed right now. I think that would be piling on too much, asking a bit too much of you. For now, we'll see how high we can get the amount that you can call out. So, what I want you to do is focus. Try to bring out as much demonic energy at once as you possibly can. You've managed to create a trickle. Now, I need you to dump a full-sized pool on my head. You get me? Yeah, Talion replied. No trouble, I got this, he said, with a smile on his face, looking down at the silver glow emanating from his hands and feet, legs. I know I can do it. Come on, he said, closing his eyes again and beginning to try to focus. I need more. Make it more intense. Now that Talion actually had the basic feeling down, calling out more demonic energy seemed to feel natural to him. And as he called more out, he could feel the warmth around him beginning to grow. But it was growing at a stable pace. Not too quickly at all, he thought to himself after the first 5 minutes of trying to call more out. He managed to double the amount that he called out, but it took 5 minutes to do. If something was going to change, if he was going to call out more energy, he needed to make it intense. But the only question was, how to do that?